The photo looked perfect. The smile, the glasses, the same sharp jawline. People walking through the airport stopped and stared because for a second they thought they were looking at Johnny Depp himself. But within days, that same man was sitting in handcuffs after investigators claimed he wasn't just copying a Hollywood icon, he was allegedly using that face to trick innocent people and steal credit cards. The story exploded online because witnesses said the resemblance was almost unbelievable. Some fans even defended him at first, thinking the entire thing was fake. But police reports, security footage, and witness statements started painting a very different picture. Now people everywhere are asking the same question: how far can obsession go before it turns dangerous? And more importantly, how did a man who looked so much like Johnny Depp allegedly fool so many people before anyone realized the truth? For a while, nobody even knew the man's real name. Online, people simply called him the Johnny Depp double because every clip and photo spreading across social media showed someone who looked shockingly close to the Hollywood actor. Strangers reportedly asked him for selfies in public places. Some believed he was a body double working secretly for movie studios. Others honestly thought Johnny Depp himself was walking around unnoticed in everyday locations. According to multiple witness accounts shared online and later repeated in local news discussions, the resemblance became the center of attention everywhere he went. But investigators would later claim that attention may have helped him more than anyone realized. The first major red flag reportedly appeared inside a busy shopping area where several customers later told authorities they remembered seeing a man who looked exactly like Johnny Depp, casually talking to strangers. Witnesses claimed he seemed confident, relaxed, and unusually friendly. That detail became important later because investigators believe trust was a huge factor in what allegedly happened next. According to reports connected to the investigation, victims claimed unauthorized charges started appearing on their cards shortly after encounters linked to the suspect. At first, nobody connected the incidents together. Banks treated them like ordinary fraud cases. Stolen card details happen every day. But detectives allegedly noticed something strange when several witness descriptions sounded nearly identical. One person reportedly described the suspect wearing tinted glasses, layered jewelry, boots, and clothing similar to styles Johnny Depp has famously worn for years. Another witness claimed the man leaned into conversations about Hollywood films whenever strangers recognized the resemblance. According to public statements referenced in media coverage, investigators believe the suspect may have intentionally encouraged confusion instead of correcting people. That distinction mattered because authorities were trying to determine whether the look was simply coincidence or part of a larger deception strategy. Security footage reportedly became one of the biggest turning points in the case. Investigators allegedly reviewed recordings from multiple businesses after fraudulent card activity was traced back to certain locations. While officials never claimed the suspect hacked banking systems or used advanced technology, reports suggested stolen information may have been gathered through close physical interactions and distraction techniques. Witnesses allegedly recalled moments where drinks, wallets, or payment cards were briefly left unattended during conversations. Authorities later suggested those small windows of opportunity may have been enough. What made the story spread so fast online was the unbelievable contrast between appearance and accusation. People watching clips of the suspect couldn't stop focusing on how closely he resembled Johnny Depp. Comment sections exploded with arguments. Some users insisted the entire story had to be fake because they couldn't believe someone with that appearance would risk becoming involved in criminal activity. Others pointed out that celebrity lookalikes have existed for decades and sometimes attract massive attention without doing anything illegal. But investigators reportedly emphasized that resemblance itself was never the crime. The allegations centered entirely around fraudulent activity connected to stolen credit card information. As media coverage intensified, more details reportedly surfaced from witness interviews. One woman allegedly told investigators she remembered being excited after seeing the suspect because she had been a longtime Johnny Depp fan. According to her statement referenced in reports, she approached him first. She claimed the conversation felt natural and harmless. Later, after discovering suspicious transactions on her account, she reportedly realized the timing matched the encounter almost perfectly. Investigators never publicly confirmed every detail from those statements, but the growing number of similar accounts reportedly strengthened the case. Online reactions became chaotic. Some people focused entirely on the criminal allegations while others became obsessed with comparing photos side by side with Johnny Depp himself. Several entertainment blogs even discussed how celebrity culture can sometimes affect public judgment. According to analysts speaking during coverage of the case, recognizable appearances can create instant familiarity. People naturally lower their guard around faces they think they know. Investigators reportedly examined whether that psychological effect played a role in how victims interacted with the suspect. Throughout the controversy, there was never any indication that Johnny Depp had any connection whatsoever to the alleged crimes. Official reporting consistently treated him as completely unrelated to the investigation beyond the physical resemblance. Still, his name remained attached to headlines because the lookalike factor drove public curiosity to another level. Clips discussing the case gained massive views online. Reaction channels debated every detail. Some viewers questioned whether the resemblance had been exaggerated by camera angles and styling choices, but others pointed to multiple witness descriptions that sounded remarkably consistent. Then another development reportedly changed everything. Authorities allegedly connected fraudulent transactions across several locations that appeared linked through timing patterns. According to reports discussing the investigation, purchases were allegedly made shortly after interactions involving the suspect. Detectives reportedly began building a timeline to determine whether victims had unknowingly exposed their financial information during casual encounters. Investigators never described the suspect as some mastermind criminal operating a giant organization. Instead, reports suggested a pattern of smaller incidents that together created a much larger picture. One investigator reportedly stated during local coverage that what made the case unusual was not the amount of money involved but the bizarre celebrity resemblance element surrounding it. That detail alone turned an otherwise local fraud investigation into a viral international discussion. Suddenly, millions of people who would never normally pay attention to regional crime stories were sharing clips, screenshots, and theories online. As pressure grew, the suspect reportedly continued appearing in public for a period of time before authorities finally moved in. Witnesses later claimed they saw him acting calmly even while online speculation intensified. Some people who encountered him allegedly still asked for photos because they thought the resemblance was entertaining rather than suspicious. Investigators would later argue that public fascination may actually have helped the suspect blend in longer than expected. Then came the moment that pushed the story fully into mainstream headlines. According to reports from the investigation, authorities allegedly detained the suspect after gathering enough evidence connected to fraudulent card activity. Witnesses claimed the arrest scene itself immediately drew attention because bystanders reportedly believed police were surrounding Johnny Depp at first glance. Within hours, photos from the scene spread across social media, and the internet erupted again. But as more official details emerged, the tone of the conversation began shifting from curiosity to disbelief because investigators were now reportedly preparing evidence they believed could directly connect the suspect to multiple alleged fraud incidents, and the deeper authorities looked into those transactions, the more complicated the timeline reportedly became. Investigators reportedly spent days reconstructing movements tied to the suspect because several alleged incidents appeared connected through overlapping locations, timestamps, and witness descriptions. According to reports discussing the case, detectives allegedly compared transaction records with surveillance footage from restaurants, shopping centers, hotels, and small retail stores where victims claimed their cards were compromised. While authorities remained careful about publicly revealing sensitive financial information, statements connected to the investigation suggested there was enough consistency between the reports to justify expanding the case further. Witnesses repeatedly described the same style, the same accessories, and the same uncanny resemblance to Johnny Depp that instantly captured attention wherever the suspect appeared. Some people reportedly admitted they remembered the encounter so clearly only because they could not stop staring at how much he looked like the famous actor. Investigators later suggested that unusual level of attention may ironically have helped preserve witness memories more accurately than in typical fraud cases because victims distinctly remembered conversations, clothing, and locations connected to the suspect. According to local reporting, one business employee allegedly told authorities that customers inside the store became visibly excited after noticing the resemblance. The witness claimed several people approached the suspect voluntarily, asking questions about movies and celebrity life even though he never directly claimed to be Johnny Depp himself. That detail reportedly became important because authorities were careful not to accuse the suspect of impersonating a celebrity in a legal sense without evidence. Instead, the focus remained on whether the resemblance was allegedly being used to create distraction and trust during interactions that later coincided with financial fraud reports. Investigators reportedly analyzed multiple surveillance clips frame by frame. According to discussions in media coverage, detectives believed the suspect often positioned himself in crowded environments where people naturally became less attentive to personal belongings. In several alleged incidents, victims later claimed they briefly handed over wallets, cards, or phones during casual situations involving payments, group conversations, or requests for assistance. Authorities reportedly emphasized that even a few seconds of access could potentially allow card details to be copied or photographed without victims immediately noticing. One report discussing the case claimed investigators suspected low-tech methods rather than sophisticated hacking equipment. According to those claims, authorities believed the suspect may have relied more on distraction, confidence, and opportunity than advanced cybercrime tactics. That theory reportedly matched several witness accounts describing the suspect as unusually charismatic and socially comfortable. Meanwhile, online discussion surrounding the story kept growing at an incredible pace. Clips comparing the suspect's appearance to Johnny Depp circulated across nearly every major platform. Some videos slowed down footage from the alleged arrest scene, pointing out similarities in facial structure, posture, hairstyle, and clothing choices. Other creators criticized sensational headlines, arguing that the internet was focusing too heavily on celebrity resemblance instead of the alleged victims. Despite those debates, one fact remained consistent throughout public reporting: Johnny Depp himself was never connected to the allegations in any way beyond appearance comparisons made by witnesses and online audiences. Entertainment commentators began discussing how celebrity culture can influence perception in real-world situations. Some analysts argued that people naturally associate familiar-looking faces with trustworthiness because celebrities become psychologically familiar through years of media exposure. According to experts quoted during coverage of similar cases, humans often react positively to recognizable features even when they cannot immediately explain why. Investigators reportedly considered whether that subconscious reaction may have affected how victims interacted with the suspect. Several victims allegedly admitted they initially approached the suspect themselves because they were fascinated by the resemblance. According to reports, that detail complicated the investigation because interactions often began voluntarily and casually rather than through obvious manipulation. One witness reportedly described feeling embarrassed after realizing what allegedly happened because the encounter had seemed so harmless at the time. Another allegedly told investigators they spent days doubting their own memory before reporting suspicious transactions because the situation felt too bizarre to explain seriously. Authorities reportedly encouraged additional potential victims to come forward after media coverage expanded nationally. According to statements referenced in reporting, investigators believed some people may not have connected unauthorized charges to encounters with the suspect until they saw public photos connected to the case. That prediction allegedly proved accurate because more reports reportedly arrived after viral coverage spread online. Some individuals claimed they encountered the suspect weeks earlier but never considered the meetings suspicious until seeing news discussions describing nearly identical experiences. Detectives allegedly began mapping timelines across multiple cities to determine whether the same pattern appeared repeatedly. Reports discussing the investigation claimed authorities examined travel records, purchase histories, and surveillance data connected to alleged incidents. While officials avoided revealing every detail publicly, they reportedly indicated the evidence trail had grown far larger than originally expected. At the same time, social media speculation reached extreme levels. Conspiracy theories appeared almost immediately. Some users falsely claimed the suspect had secret Hollywood connections while others bizarrely suggested the entire case was staged publicity. None of those claims were supported by official reporting. Investigators repeatedly emphasized that the case centered on ordinary fraud allegations being investigated through standard procedures. However, because celebrity resemblance remained central to public fascination, misinformation spread rapidly online. Several viral posts reportedly used edited images or misleading captions, forcing some news outlets to clarify basic facts repeatedly. According to public reporting, authorities never accused the suspect of directly pretending to be Johnny Depp in official business transactions or legal identification processes. Instead, the resemblance allegedly became useful during casual social interactions where strangers naturally reacted with excitement or curiosity. Legal analysts discussing the case explained that appearance alone is not illegal. The criminal allegations depended entirely on evidence connected to unauthorized financial activity. As the investigation continued, reports suggested detectives focused heavily on digital transaction timing. According to sources discussing the case, several disputed charges allegedly occurred within short periods after victims encountered the suspect in person. Authorities reportedly believed those timing patterns strengthened the connection between witness statements and financial evidence. Investigators also allegedly examined whether stolen card information may have been transferred or sold to others after being collected. However, reports at the time indicated officials had not publicly confirmed involvement from any larger criminal network. One particularly discussed incident allegedly occurred at a restaurant where witnesses claimed the suspect spent significant time interacting with nearby customers who recognized the Johnny Depp resemblance. According to accounts referenced during coverage, conversations reportedly became friendly enough that personal belongings were briefly left unattended at the table area. Later, unauthorized purchases allegedly appeared connected to one of the individuals present. Investigators reportedly reviewed payment records and surveillance footage connected to that location very carefully because the timeline appeared especially precise. Another witness allegedly described seeing the suspect skillfully redirect attention during conversations whenever people became distracted by excitement over the resemblance. According to reports, investigators considered whether social engineering techniques may have played a major role in the alleged fraud pattern. Experts discussing similar crimes explained that confidence and distraction are often more effective than technical sophistication in real-world theft cases. Meanwhile, the suspect's image continued dominating headlines. Some entertainment pages focused almost entirely on appearance comparisons rather than legal developments, frustrating observers who believed the alleged victims deserved more attention. Others argued the resemblance itself was impossible to ignore because it fundamentally shaped public reactions throughout the entire story. According to media analysts, the case demonstrated how quickly internet culture can transform local investigations into global viral phenomena when celebrity connections become involved, even indirectly. During this period, several interviews reportedly surfaced from people who claimed to have met the suspect before the allegations became public. Some described him as polite and charismatic. Others recalled feeling slightly uncomfortable during interactions but could not explain why at the time. Investigators reportedly reviewed those accounts carefully while building behavioral timelines connected to the alleged incidents. According to reports, authorities also examined whether the suspect intentionally modeled fashion choices after Johnny Depp to strengthen the resemblance further. Witnesses frequently mentioned layered rings, scarves, tinted glasses, hats, and other accessories commonly associated with the actor's public image over the years. However, officials reportedly avoided making exaggerated claims unless directly supported by evidence. Legal commentators covering the case repeatedly reminded audiences that allegations alone do not equal guilt and that investigations require proof beyond online speculation. Despite that caution, public opinion online became increasingly intense. Some users instantly assumed guilt based on headlines alone, while others insisted the suspect was being unfairly targeted because of his appearance. Investigators reportedly continued focusing strictly on evidence rather than internet reaction. According to sources discussing the case, forensic analysis of financial records became a major component of the investigation. Authorities allegedly traced disputed transactions across multiple accounts and businesses while comparing them against witness timelines. Reports suggested detectives believed certain spending patterns connected the incidents together more strongly than coincidence alone. As weeks passed, the story evolved from a bizarre viral curiosity into a serious legal matter receiving national attention. According to public reporting, prosecutors allegedly began reviewing evidence gathered by investigators to determine which charges could formally proceed. At the same time, defense discussions reportedly focused on challenging assumptions created by media coverage and celebrity comparisons. Legal experts noted that widespread online attention can complicate fair public perception long before any courtroom proceedings occur. Some commentators argued the suspect's resemblance to Johnny Depp may have unfairly amplified the story beyond what similar fraud cases normally receive. Others countered that the resemblance allegedly played a direct role in how victims interacted with the suspect, making it impossible to separate from the investigation entirely. Throughout every stage of coverage, official reports consistently maintained that Johnny Depp himself had absolutely no involvement in the allegations, no connection to the suspect personally, and no role whatsoever in the investigation beyond being the celebrity people referenced when describing the resemblance. Eventually, according to reports discussing the legal process, authorities allegedly prepared to present witness statements, surveillance footage, financial timelines, and transaction analysis as part of the developing case. Journalists covering the investigation noted how unusual it was for a fraud story to attract entertainment-level attention across international audiences. Yet despite the viral headlines and celebrity comparisons, investigators reportedly kept returning to the same central issue: whether evidence could prove the suspect knowingly participated in unauthorized credit card theft and fraudulent spending activities. And as more details allegedly emerged from interviews and transaction reviews, people following the story closely began realizing the resemblance to Johnny Depp may have been the least shocking part of the entire investigation because, according to authorities, the real concern was how easily ordinary trust can allegedly be manipulated when public fascination clouds judgment even for just a few seconds at exactly the wrong moment. As legal discussions reportedly intensified behind the scenes, investigators allegedly continued uncovering additional details that painted a broader picture of how the suspect operated during public encounters. According to reports connected to the case, detectives believed the alleged fraud pattern relied heavily on speed, timing, and social distraction rather than complicated technology. Witnesses repeatedly described interactions that initially felt completely ordinary. Some said the suspect casually joined conversations after being recognized in public. Others claimed people naturally gathered around him once someone mentioned how much he looked like Johnny Depp. According to accounts discussed during media coverage, the atmosphere often became relaxed and entertaining, which investigators later suggested may have lowered people's awareness of personal belongings and financial information. Authorities reportedly analyzed several locations where alleged victims encountered the suspect shortly before unauthorized transactions appeared on their accounts. One investigator allegedly explained that modern fraud investigations frequently depend on identifying behavioral patterns rather than focusing only on isolated incidents. In this case, reports suggested detectives saw similarities across multiple witness statements involving crowded environments, brief interactions, and moments where wallets, cards, or mobile payment devices became temporarily exposed. According to legal analysts discussing the investigation publicly, proving intent remained one of the most important challenges. Resemblance to a celebrity is obviously not illegal, and prosecutors reportedly needed evidence directly connecting the suspect to the alleged financial activity itself rather than relying on viral headlines or online assumptions. Meanwhile, public fascination with the case only grew stronger. Several major discussion channels online reportedly dedicated entire segments to comparing the suspect's appearance with archival photos and red carpet footage of Johnny Depp over the years. Viewers debated everything from facial expressions to clothing choices. Some insisted the resemblance had been exaggerated by media outlets seeking clicks, while others argued the similarities were genuinely startling. Regardless of opinion, the constant comparisons kept the story trending far beyond the normal lifespan of most regional fraud investigations. According to reports, some witnesses even admitted they initially saved photos with the suspect because they thought meeting someone who looked so much like Johnny Depp was funny or memorable. Investigators allegedly later reviewed several of those images to help establish timelines and verify locations connected to reported incidents. One source discussing the case claimed timestamps from personal photos reportedly helped detectives confirm the suspect's presence near locations tied to disputed purchases. That unexpected use of ordinary fan-style pictures became another strange element in an already bizarre investigation. As attention intensified, cybersecurity experts reportedly appeared in interviews explaining how many fraud schemes still depend more on human psychology than advanced hacking systems. According to those experts, social confidence, distraction, and familiarity often create opportunities for criminals without requiring sophisticated equipment. Some analysts discussing the case suggested the celebrity resemblance may have unintentionally functioned like social camouflage because people naturally focused on the entertainment value of the encounter instead of remaining cautious about personal information. Authorities reportedly never publicly accused the suspect of using fake banking systems, complex malware, or large-scale cyber attacks. Instead, reports suggested investigators believed smaller moments of access allegedly played a central role. Witnesses claimed there were occasions where cards briefly disappeared from view during payments or where phones containing digital wallet information were left unattended while conversations continued nearby. According to sources discussing the evidence review, prosecutors allegedly examined whether patterns of timing and location could demonstrate intentional coordination between those interactions and later unauthorized purchases. One of the most discussed aspects of the case involved how quickly online audiences formed opinions before formal legal proceedings had fully developed. Some users immediately labeled the suspect guilty based purely on viral headlines and dramatic thumbnails circulating across social media. Others insisted the case represented media sensationalism driven entirely by celebrity obsession. Legal experts commenting publicly warned audiences about the dangers of assuming facts before court evidence is presented fully. According to those analysts, high-profile viral stories often create distorted public narratives long before trials or legal conclusions occur. Despite those warnings, internet speculation reportedly became impossible to contain. False rumors spread claiming the suspect had impersonated Johnny Depp professionally, attended celebrity events, or secretly interacted with entertainment industry insiders. Official reporting supported none of those theories. Investigators consistently described the matter as an alleged fraud investigation connected to unauthorized financial activity and witness encounters involving a man with a strong resemblance to the actor. Still, every time the story appeared online, the celebrity connection dominated attention. According to media commentators, that imbalance highlighted how strongly modern audiences react to anything remotely connected to famous public figures. Some victims reportedly struggled emotionally after learning their alleged encounters became national discussion topics. According to interviews referenced during coverage, several individuals felt embarrassed that excitement over the resemblance may have distracted them during interactions later linked to fraud claims. Investigators reportedly encouraged those individuals not to blame themselves, emphasizing that social engineering crimes often succeed specifically because they exploit ordinary trust and attention patterns. One law enforcement source allegedly noted that anyone can become vulnerable during unexpected situations that feel exciting or unusual. As authorities allegedly prepared formal evidence packages, reports suggested surveillance footage became increasingly important to the developing case. Detectives reportedly reviewed recordings from multiple businesses to identify recurring movement patterns involving the suspect before and after disputed transactions occurred. According to sources familiar with the investigation, some footage allegedly showed the suspect engaging comfortably with strangers who approached him about the Johnny Depp resemblance. Authorities reportedly believed those interactions established opportunities for distraction that aligned with later fraud reports. However, defense-related discussions and media coverage emphasized that appearing in public locations near alleged victims does not automatically prove criminal conduct. Legal analysts repeatedly stressed the difference between suspicion, coincidence, and evidence meeting courtroom standards. During this period, several entertainment commentators surprisingly shifted focus toward broader discussions about celebrity culture itself. Some argued society has become so fascinated with famous faces that people instinctively lower defenses around anyone who resembles a celebrity. Others pointed out how social media rewards visual shock value above nearly everything else, allowing stories like this to spread internationally within hours regardless of legal complexity. According to one analyst quoted during coverage, the investigation became a strange combination of crime reporting, internet psychology, and celebrity fascination all colliding at the same time. Meanwhile, additional witnesses allegedly contacted authorities after recognizing the suspect from viral photos shared online. According to reports, some individuals claimed they remembered encounters months earlier but never connected them to suspicious account activity until seeing widespread media coverage. Investigators reportedly reviewed those new claims cautiously to separate verified evidence from possible mistaken memories influenced by internet discussion. Experts in behavioral psychology reportedly warned that viral publicity can unintentionally affect how people interpret past events, especially when a story becomes emotionally memorable. Despite those concerns, authorities allegedly continued finding transaction timelines they believed supported the investigation. Reports discussing the case claimed disputed purchases often appeared shortly after in-person encounters involving the suspect. Detectives reportedly examined whether similar spending locations, transaction amounts, or timing intervals appeared repeatedly across multiple accounts. According to sources connected to the investigation, prosecutors allegedly focused heavily on establishing consistent patterns rather than relying solely on individual accusations. At the same time, public curiosity surrounding the suspect's identity reportedly intensified. Many people online became obsessed with learning personal background details, previous employment history, and possible motives. Some reports suggested the suspect had embraced the Johnny Depp resemblance socially for years before the allegations emerged. Witnesses allegedly recalled seeing him receive attention in bars, restaurants, and shopping areas long before the investigation became public. According to commentators covering the story, celebrity lookalikes often experience unusual public reactions ranging from admiration to constant comparison, which can shape social interactions in unpredictable ways. However, investigators reportedly remained focused on evidence tied directly to alleged financial crimes rather than internet fascination with the resemblance itself. As court-related preparations allegedly moved forward, legal experts discussing the case repeatedly emphasized the importance of due process. Some commentators worried that endless viral repetition of the suspect's appearance beside Johnny Depp photos risked influencing public assumptions unfairly before legal conclusions were reached. Others argued that the resemblance was inseparable from understanding why witnesses remembered encounters so vividly and why the story spread so explosively online. Throughout all stages of reporting, one point remained absolutely consistent: Johnny Depp was never accused of involvement, never connected personally to the suspect, and never identified as part of the investigation in any capacity beyond being the celebrity comparison witnesses repeatedly referenced. Eventually, according to reports discussing upcoming proceedings, authorities allegedly prepared to present digital transaction analysis, surveillance timelines, witness testimony, and financial evidence they believed demonstrated intentional fraudulent activity connected to the suspect. Observers following the case noted how surreal the entire situation still sounded even after months of coverage because at its core, the investigation centered around a man whose resemblance to one of Hollywood's most recognizable actors allegedly created moments of trust and distraction that investigators believed were exploited during repeated credit card theft incidents. And as the story continued evolving through legal channels, many people watching from the outside started questioning not just the allegations themselves but the uncomfortable reality the case seemed to expose about modern society, because in a world driven by celebrity recognition, viral attention, and instant emotional reactions, sometimes people stop paying attention to what is happening right in front of them until the damage has already been done. By the time the case reportedly reached deeper legal review, the story had already transformed into one of the internet's strangest crime discussions because people were no longer talking only about alleged credit card theft. They were debating identity, celebrity culture, psychology, public trust, and how quickly appearances can influence human behavior in everyday situations. According to reports connected to the investigation, prosecutors allegedly continued organizing evidence around timelines showing where the suspect had been seen before disputed transactions appeared. Investigators reportedly compared witness accounts from restaurants, outdoor events, retail centers, and hotel lounges where the suspect allegedly interacted with strangers who recognized the Johnny Depp resemblance almost immediately. Some witnesses claimed entire groups gathered around him asking questions, requesting photos, or joking about movie scenes connected to the actor. According to analysts following the case, those moments of excitement may have unintentionally created exactly the kind of distraction investigators believed allowed brief access to personal financial information. Authorities reportedly emphasized that many fraud cases do not involve dramatic hacking scenes or sophisticated spy-level tactics. Instead, investigators often see ordinary social situations manipulated at carefully chosen moments. In this case, according to sources discussing the evidence, detectives allegedly believed the suspect relied heavily on confidence, charm, and fast-moving public interactions where people naturally became distracted. Some victims reportedly told authorities they only realized something felt unusual after replaying the encounter in their minds days later when unauthorized charges appeared. One individual allegedly said the entire interaction lasted less than 10 minutes yet remained unforgettable purely because of the resemblance to Johnny Depp. Investigators reportedly reviewed statements like that carefully because memory accuracy became especially important once media attention exploded internationally. According to legal commentators, viral publicity can complicate witness recollection by mixing original memory with repeated online discussion. Still, authorities allegedly believed enough independent similarities existed across multiple accounts to continue building the case. During this period, internet culture pushed the story even further into mainstream attention. Reaction channels, commentary creators, entertainment blogs, and true crime communities all began covering different versions of the investigation. Some focused heavily on the psychology of celebrity lookalikes while others concentrated on alleged fraud techniques. Several creators reportedly criticized exaggerated thumbnails and misleading titles that implied Johnny Depp himself had somehow been connected to the case. Official reporting never suggested anything remotely close to that. Throughout every stage of the investigation, the actor remained completely unrelated beyond the physical resemblance witnesses repeatedly described. Nevertheless, algorithms rewarded sensationalism, and many online discussions became increasingly dramatic as views climbed. According to media analysts, this created a dangerous cycle where public curiosity encouraged exaggerated storytelling even while legal proceedings were still developing. Meanwhile, authorities reportedly continued tracing disputed purchases linked to alleged victims. Some reports suggested investigators identified patterns involving rapid transactions occurring shortly after public encounters with the suspect. Detectives allegedly examined whether stolen card details had been used directly by the suspect or transferred elsewhere after collection. However, according to sources discussing the investigation, officials remained cautious about publicly describing specific operational details while evidence review continued. Experts interviewed during coverage repeatedly explained that fraud networks sometimes operate through layered systems where information changes hands quickly, making direct attribution more difficult. Despite those complexities, prosecutors reportedly believed witness timelines and financial records together formed a compelling pattern worth pursuing. Several people who followed the case online became fascinated by how ordinary the alleged encounters initially sounded. Victims reportedly described simple conversations about movies, fashion, travel, or celebrity culture. According to accounts referenced during coverage, nothing about the interactions immediately felt threatening or criminal. Investigators allegedly argued that normality itself may have been the most effective element because people tend to relax when situations feel socially familiar and entertaining. One cybersecurity specialist discussing the story publicly explained that trust-based manipulation often succeeds precisely because it avoids triggering fear or suspicion in the moment. According to that expert, humans are naturally vulnerable to distraction when emotionally excited or socially engaged. Reports suggested investigators believed the suspect understood that dynamic extremely well. As the legal process moved forward, questions reportedly emerged regarding how defense attorneys might address the enormous influence of media attention surrounding the case. Legal analysts speculated that widespread viral coverage comparing the suspect to Johnny Depp could potentially affect public perception long before any courtroom conclusions were reached. Some experts argued that repeated celebrity-focused headlines risked turning the investigation into entertainment rather than a serious legal matter involving alleged victims and financial crimes. Others countered that the resemblance remained central because witnesses consistently described it as the reason encounters became memorable in the first place. According to commentators covering the case, separating those two realities became nearly impossible. The public obsession with the resemblance also reportedly led to several false sightings across social media. Users posted unrelated photos claiming the suspect had been spotted in different cities, airports, and public events even when authorities had not confirmed those claims. Investigators allegedly warned people against spreading misinformation because inaccurate viral posts complicated efforts to verify legitimate witness reports. Some entertainment pages reportedly deleted misleading content after criticism for prioritizing engagement over factual reporting. Despite those corrections, the story continued spreading internationally because the combination of celebrity resemblance and alleged fraud remained irresistibly clickable to online audiences. According to reports discussing the investigation, one particularly important piece of evidence allegedly involved synchronized surveillance timelines showing disputed purchases occurring soon after interactions linked to the suspect. Authorities reportedly believed those patterns strengthened arguments that the incidents were connected rather than random coincidence. However, defense-related discussions emphasized that circumstantial timing alone does not automatically prove direct criminal responsibility. Legal experts repeatedly reminded audiences that investigators still needed evidence capable of meeting courtroom standards beyond internet speculation or public assumption. During interviews connected to coverage of the case, some former fraud investigators explained how difficult these situations can become when suspects attract intense public fascination. According to those experts, viral attention sometimes pressures authorities to move faster while simultaneously increasing scrutiny on every investigative step. One analyst reportedly noted that cases involving unusual social elements often become harder to explain clearly because audiences focus on dramatic details instead of legal evidence. In this situation, the Johnny Depp resemblance became such a dominant talking point that many people barely discussed the underlying financial allegations at all. Meanwhile, several victims reportedly described emotional frustration over constantly seeing memes and jokes about the story online. According to reports, some individuals felt the seriousness of alleged financial theft became overshadowed by entertainment-style discussions surrounding celebrity comparisons. Investigators allegedly encouraged witnesses to remain focused on factual statements and avoid engaging with viral speculation online. Experts discussing similar cases explained that maintaining evidence integrity becomes increasingly important once public narratives spiral across social media platforms. Despite the chaos surrounding internet reaction, authorities reportedly continued methodically reviewing transaction data, location records, witness timelines, and surveillance footage connected to the investigation. According to sources discussing the case, prosecutors allegedly prepared arguments centered on repeated behavioral patterns occurring across multiple incidents. Legal commentators noted that demonstrating consistency often becomes critical in fraud-related prosecutions because individual encounters may appear harmless when viewed separately. Investigators reportedly believed the broader timeline told a more persuasive story once all alleged incidents were analyzed together. At the same time, debates surrounding celebrity culture kept growing. Some sociologists and media analysts used the case as an example of how modern audiences respond emotionally to recognizable imagery before fully processing factual information. According to discussions appearing in coverage of the story, humans often build subconscious familiarity with celebrities after years of seeing their faces through films, interviews, advertisements, and online content. Experts suggested that familiarity can sometimes create instant social comfort even in brief real-world encounters. Investigators reportedly considered whether that reaction may have influenced how victims interacted with the suspect during alleged incidents. One commentator covering the story summarized the situation by saying the resemblance allegedly opened doors socially before anyone had reason to question what was happening around them. As public interest remained high, some people online began revisiting older viral stories involving celebrity lookalikes, impersonators, and social deception. However, legal experts warned against assuming every sensational comparison represented the same type of situation. According to analysts discussing the current investigation, the central issue remains straightforward despite the bizarre headlines: whether evidence proved unauthorized financial activity connected to the suspect. Authorities reportedly stayed focused on that core question while internet culture continued building increasingly dramatic narratives around the case. According to reports connected to the legal review process, prosecutors allegedly believed they had assembled a combination of digital transaction records, witness testimony, surveillance analysis, and timing evidence strong enough to proceed further. Defense discussions reportedly prepared to challenge assumptions created by viral coverage while emphasizing the importance of separating public fascination from courtroom proof. Observers following the case closely noted how unusual it was to see a fraud investigation generate entertainment-level global attention almost entirely because of physical resemblance to a major Hollywood actor. Yet despite the surreal nature of the headlines, investigators allegedly remained concerned about something much more ordinary and much more real: how quickly trust can disappear once people realize someone may have exploited harmless social moments for financial gain. And for many people watching the case unfold online, that became the most unsettling part of the entire story because the allegations suggested the suspect did not allegedly rely on force, threats, or high-tech hacking but instead on a simple understanding of human attention, curiosity, and distraction in a world where celebrity recognition can instantly change how strangers behave around someone they think they recognize. If this story shocked you, you are definitely not alone because thousands of people online still can't believe how far this entire situation allegedly went. And remember, no matter how convincing someone looks, trust should never replace caution when your personal information is involved. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more real stories explained without fake drama or made-up details, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next upload. And tell me in the comments right now, if you saw someone who looked exactly like Johnny Depp in public, would you honestly recognize the difference immediately or would you be fooled too?